What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back with the team at Awesemo. And today we are bringing you the first of many college basketball DFS videos before the NCAA tournament starts to gear up in March. But before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. And before we get started, we have a word from our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. For those of you that don't know about Monkey Knife Fight, they are a player prop-based platform. They're easy to use, low commitment. And for those of you new users, you can use the promo code Awesemo and get up to $100 match bonus on your first deposit. We have all sorts of player prop tools that can help you out there. So make sure to check out Monkey Knife Fight. But without further ado, let's bring you behind the glass and show you some of our college basketball data usage. So when you look at this page, you're going to find basically the matchups on the slate. There's all sorts of Vegas totals, the spread, the total, projected pace of the game, offensive and defensive efficiency, how these teams are in the paint, how they are from three-point land, how the defenses stack up, and then we have rebounding on the very end. And then for this G1, G2, G3, that's just the margin of victory or defeat in their last three games, which you can use to see against their minutes, against their fouls, how did these teams actually use these players in their rotations? This is one of the keys I like to use to get some context for these matchups. But we have a big slate today, so we'll dive right into it. Projections aren't quite finished yet, so this is going to be more of your first look as we get started into these games. But the first contest we have is Michigan State taking on Penn State. Right out the gate, this isn't the best game to target for DFS. Michigan State's a 3-point favorite. The total's 130. Pace is slightly below average here, reflected in the total. But Michigan State's a team that uses about 8-9 guys in their rotation. So they're typically not one we want to look to for DFS. If I'm just trying to highlight maybe one player to use here, it's probably Max Christie. He's the only one that really has consistent minutes, 33, 33, and 30 in the last three games. But his usage rate's really low at 13.3%. So he's kind of your wind sprinting kind of guy on the floor. Outside of that, you haven't seen anybody play 30 minutes outside of him in any of the last three games outside of Gabe Brown. So it's pretty tough to get to any of these guys. On the Penn State side, also pretty difficult to play any of them as a big underdog here. Greg Lee's injury has kind of reduced the rotation. So Jalen Pickett's a little expensive for me, but he plays every minute, 18% usage rate. Not going to get a ton of the rebounds, mostly a shot maker, scorer from the periphery in terms of assists. Then you have a guy like John Hare, who just doesn't play enough minutes. Seth Lundy, he'll be in around 30 minutes now that we don't have Greg Lee. So he's probably the best option, but still, usage is really bad here for all these guys. It's kind of just a stay away spot for me. Game 2 is Florida taking on Texas A&M. This game is a 1-point spread in favor of the Aggies, a 134.5 total. Also not the best. Pace is about average here. Florida's another team that's going to use about 7 to 8 guys in their rotation. And the only player with a consistent role here is Colin Castleton. He's now a couple games removed from the injury, but he's playing around 30 minutes a game. Usage rate's great for him. He's going to be a GPP play in a pretty good matchup. Texas A&M's not the best team on the interior. Their big guy, Henry Coleman's just 6'7". They use a couple situational bigs, but Colin Castleton at 6'11", he's going to be your big rebounding monster here. So I think you can look to him in tournaments. Outside of that, it's pretty slim pickings. Now that everybody's healthy for the most part, outside of Jatobo, you're not going to get a ton of usage from these guys, and the total's low. A&M is kind of the same thing. Their rotation's even wider. They're going to use upwards of 12 players on any given slate. We've used some Tyrese Radford in the past. Again, Henry Coleman's in a bad matchup here. So it's kind of another stay away spot for me in a low total game overall. So we won't waste any time here. We'll move to the next one, which is Texas taking on Oklahoma. 1.5-point spread in favor of the Longhorns. A 125.5 total, which has been troublesome for Texas all year. A lot of times Texas is just an X out spot unless you can find someone really, really cheap. Just because they're playing so slow, their totals end up being so poorly, you can almost ignore Texas anytime they're on the slate. Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr have seen their prices drop, but not to the point where I'm willing to target them. And they also mess up their rotation all the time. Sometimes Marcus Carr plays 34 minutes. Sometimes he plays 28. Timmy Allen's kind of the same thing. He was in foul trouble their last game, so maybe you're buying low, but still 6,500. For a guy in this total is pretty bad. You also have two pretty good defensively sound teams. Also not trying to go down and play any of these ancillary guys for Texas either. It's kind of a stay away spot. Oklahoma's been another team that has just changed their rotation constantly. Tanner Groves plays 12 minutes one game, he plays 30 the next. Umoja Gibson plays 36 minutes. The next game, he plays 20. Goldwire, same thing, 24-37. You guys can kind of see the trend here. nobody for Oklahoma has played a consistent role for this team all year. So I know it's first 3 games up, first 3 games down, but not a ton of plays in the first 3 ultimately. Our next game, Wake Forest against Duke, is one we want to highlight. This is a spot with a 149 total. Wake Forest plays really fast. Duke is slightly above average in terms of pace too, giving us that good total. But then Duke is a 10.5-point favorite, giving us the best implied team total on the slate. For Wake Forest, we do have a usage dominator in Alondas Williams. He'll play every single minute. Usage rate is north of 20. He has a 29% shot rate last 3, 19% rebound rate, 31% assist rate. Anytime you want to play Alondas, you can't really argue against it. It's just, does the game environment match up for him? And it is a tougher spot against Duke, 31st in defensive efficiency, but Alondas gets it done in so many ways. Jake LaRavia is coming off a 22-minute game where he fouled out. He typically plays every minute, and he's become more of a peripheral player. He actually has a 44.5% assist rate in the last 3, which is crazy, but he's somebody that I'm typically just going to try to find the salary to get to Alondas because Alondas is such a larger ceiling in terms of scoring, but LaRavia is okay. Davian Williamson has played a lot of minutes, 35 in back-to-back games, but the trend with Wake Forest is just so much usage is ceded to Alondas. It's tough to play any of these guys. And now they have extended their rotation a little bit with Damari Monsato back in the lineup. For Duke, a spot where you could definitely look at Paolo Banchero. I actually like Banchero over Alondas, I think, in a vacuum today, just with the difference in team total here, Duke being the 10.5-point favorite. But Banchero, he's going to play around 35 minutes. Rates are phenomenal, especially last 3, where he's above 22% in shot rate, rebound rate, and assist rate. A lot of that's come at the expense of Wendell Moore, who's playing slightly less minutes. Price has fallen, but he's still not seeing anywhere near that early season usage we saw with Wendell. From there, you have Trevor Keels back from injury. He's going to play upper 20s in minutes. Usage rate's pretty decent, 18%. A lot of shots and rebounds for Keels. I think he's fine. A lot of these Duke ancillary pieces are going to pop just because their total's so good. AJ Griffin's another guy who has shown upside at times this year, but he's a little more expensive. I would try to just play Keels if I'm playing one of those guys in a vacuum. And Jeremy Roach would be your cheap ancillary piece. Ceiling is 25 minutes, has to get it done in the periphery. Just with all the other studs on Duke, he's going to see a lot of usage. So first spot, I really want to take a look at guys. Favorite players are Banchero and Keels. Next game, we have Clemson taking on Florida State. Two teams that are kind of in disarray. Clemson, they lost Hunter Tyson to injury. David Collins should be back from his suspension after the egregious flagrant in the Duke game. But it's a lower total, 138, kind of middling. Pace is slightly below average. You have two teams that struggle on defense and are better on offense. Florida State, 170, second in defensive deficiency. Clemson, 211th. On the Clemson side, there's potential value pieces here. You have a guy in Naz Bohannon, who's now at the 5,200, but because of the Tyson injury, he'll play upper 20s to 30 minutes. His rates are a little higher, but still, he's a little more expensive than I'd like. Same goes for Chase Hunter. Hunter's minutes probably come down a little bit with David Collins projected to enter the lineup again. So Clemson overall is a little bit expensive. Even the studs, PJ Hall and Alamir Dawes, they don't have that every single minute floor. Typically, this is going to be an 8-man rotation for Clemson. However, on Florida State, there's so many injuries that there just is probably going to be value here regardless. Already, they're down Anthony Polite, Malik Osborne, and Naheem McLeod. But now Caleb Mills sprained his ankle in the last game, and the word coming out of Florida State's not very good. Basically, they said he didn't fracture his ankle. You tell me. I mean, if we're talking about the positive being he didn't break his ankle, it doesn't sound very likely he's going to play today. So you have Matt Cleveland, 7K, a bit expensive when you can take Raekwon Evans or Cameron Fletcher. Fletcher should play a ton of minutes now at 4,500, especially if Mills misses. No idea what the usage looks like, but Fletcher's already been pretty involved, so interested there. You could also look at cheaper players like Pareto. He played 23 minutes in their last game. You're just not 100% sure what the rotation looks like. Even Wyatt Wilkes at 3,800. One thing we can guarantee is they're going to be players that get 25 minutes that are below 5K here. If I'm prioritizing them, it's going to be Cam Fletcher 1, Wyatt Wilkes 2, and then Pareto as the third option. For Clemson, again, probably not trying to get too many of these guys, focusing mostly on the Florida State because of their pure value. Next game is Memphis taking on Cincinnati. 143 total, pretty good here. Memphis plays way above average in pace. Cincinnati is about on average, but both these teams play solid defense and struggle a little bit on offense. Cincinnati in particular is 178th in offensive efficiency. Memphis, they're now mostly healthy outside of Amani Bates, who's dealing with the back. Not expecting to see Bates anytime soon, but because they have a full roster, the 11-man rotation's back, and it's 12 with Bates, so we do have one guy kind of excluded from the rotation, but still tough to get to these guys. I think if you're prioritizing any of them, it has to be Landers Nolly or Alex Lomax, just because those are the two guys below 5K that have 30-minute upside. Again, no guarantee they're going to see that, but they're the two players that do see the most minutes comparative to their price. So trying to get to them. But again, Cincinnati's a tough matchup here. On the Cincinnati side, another team using a 10-man rotation. Very difficult to get to any of these guys. Even David DeJulius, he'll drop below 30 minutes at times. Jeremiah Davenport, same thing. Those are the two usage leaders, and you can just find better price-adjusted plays. For example, I'd rather play Trevor Keels at a cheaper price with higher upside and a better game environment than target the Cincinnati guys. Memphis also plays a very good defense, even though their rotation is pretty gnarly. Villanova taking on Providence, a 4.5-point spread in favor of Villanova. Providence leading the Big East, but Villanova is battling injury. Colin Gillespie and Justin Moore have been gutting it out through injury the last two games, and there hasn't really been anything to suggest that that will change here. Expecting to see those two on the floor. At what capacity, we're not sure. But Justin Moore's played 36 and 35 minutes last two. I think he's the player you would try to get to if you're playing one of them. But as you can see, there's a good spot to look at rates in their last three games. Both Moore and Gillespie are down significantly from their season average, even though they're both playing a ton of minutes. So if you're looking to capitalize on that, maybe Eric Dixon, who's been the guy that stepped up, could be a good value. He has a 22% shot rate, 26% rebound rate, and 19.5% assist rate in the last three games. Again, there's no way to tell whether that is going to remain constant or if we'll see Moore and Gillespie get back to their season-long averages. Just a leap of faith. And it's a low total game, 130, so maybe not the best spot. On Providence, we basically know what we're going to get. You'll see a ton of Al Durham. You're going to see a lot of Horkler, Bynum. Nate Watson's been playing more minutes, but it's a very difficult spot for them. And again, implied team total is 63 for Providence. How much do we really want to take here, especially when usage is pretty spread? For me, it's going to be Bynum or move on, and he's 7K, so the price tag isn't even great on Bynum. I think you can find some other players that are maybe in a better price range, or at least better price-adjusted plays overall. One-shot spot is Arkansas. They're 8-point favorites over Missouri, a 140 total. Just a big difference in competition. Arkansas is 78th in offensive efficiency. Missouri is 279th. Defensive efficiency, Arkansas is 27th. Missouri is 253rd. The spread is moving wildly in Arkansas's favor. And you now get a chance to buy J.D. Notae cheaply after he battled foul trouble in the first half of their game against Alabama. Largely cost them the game. I mean, Notae playing 24 minutes, and he finished with 3 fouls. So you can see the first half foul trouble didn't even amount to anything. But Notae, he's going to be your usage leader, 23% usage rate. Just he's going to take so many shots and be involved in so many scoring plays that he needs to be considered with this implied total. From there, Desi Tony plays a ton of minutes. His usage rate isn't great, but you're just looking for consistent usage. He's your guy. Jalen Williams plays a lot of minutes. His rates have increased drastically of late, especially in the rebounding category where he's at nearly 26%. That's the biggest weakness for Missouri is rebounding. So he's a guy that has a lot of double-double equity that I think you could look to in the spot. Devo Davis, 5,100, still not seeing the rates we saw last year, but we know it's in there, and he's now played 31 and 32 minutes in back-to-back games. So I think if you're looking for a cheap play on Arkansas, Devo Davis is certainly in play. And again, this team has narrowed their rotation quite a bit. Stanley Umude is another guy we just need to mention because strong rates. When he's not fouling out like last game, he should play 30+. So I think Notae, Umude, Tony, Jalen Williams, and Devo Davis are all in play. This is a strong spot to target for DFS. Missouri, they have narrowed their rotation a little bit here. Javon Pickett's going to play every minute. Again, projections aren't fully out yet, so I don't know how they're going to end up grading overall. But this is a spot where I could see maybe you take an underdog, just a player here and there, because they have so many injuries. Brookshire, Wilmore, they're two guys battling injuries, questionable here. So if this swings the right way, you might be able to get some pretty decent value. But overall, the team total is really low, and their usage is pretty split across the board. Among their starters, nobody has a usage rate above 15%, and that's Kobe Brown, who is a foul risk here too, especially in the tough matchup. But probably Pickett or move on for me with this team. Moving to Kentucky, taking on Tennessee. one of the better games in real life. First thing to note here is Ty Washington is battling an injury. We don't know if he's going to play. Expect to see more Davion Mintz if Ty is out, and Davion Mintz at 4,900 would become one of the more popular plays on the slate, I imagine. Value's not the best, but does make Davion Mintz pretty viable here. Again, he played 28 minutes in the last game with Ty just getting 26. Otherwise, Sheboy cannot be stopped. 23% shot rate, 40% rebound rate, a walking double-double. Tennessee does not have a lot of size to combat Sheboy. Love him here. Keon Brooks is playing a larger role of late. Even Kellen Grady's playing a decent role. Severe, mainly a peripheral player. Maybe he takes more shots with Ty vacating 20% again. That's if Ty sits. If Ty plays, expect 25 to 30 minutes himself. But overall, Sheboy, even at his elevated price, if you can make him work, you want to play him anytime. And then if Ty is out, I think we're looking to Davion Mintz and Severe Wheeler. On the Tennessee side, Olivier Kamhua has been out. That does not help trying to guard Sheboy. This team has used an extended rotation of late. Again, they have also been in close games here too. So it's not like this is a spot where blowouts increase their rotation. It's been pretty wide. It's probably Josiah Jordan-James or bust for me just because of the depth the front court is missing. Kennedy Chandler, 24 minutes in their last game. I think you could still play Chandler. He had 4 fouls. So he's going to be kind of your risky stud in this game environment. The team total here is still pretty good. The total overall 139.5 is solid. Wisconsin taking on Indiana. Bad spot to target Johnny Davis. Just the total being 131.5. Wisconsin 64 implied team total. I'd rather take Banchero. I'd rather take some of the other studs we have talked about. But Johnny Davis has some of the best usage in the country, best rates, plays every minute. He's the guy I want to get to if I'm playing anyone on Wisconsin. Outside of that, the rotation is narrow. So if you're taking a shot on Davidson, Wall, Chucky Hepburn, the minutes will be there at least. It's just the usage rates aren't great for any of these guys, especially in this total game environment against Indiana's 20th ranked defense. On the other side, Trace Jackson Davis is a solid play. Similar to Davis, he's not in the best environment, but his rates are very, very good. Over 20% shot rate and rebound rate. And the same thing goes for last 3. Will play every minute, and he has one of the lowest foul rates for a big man. So that's not really a huge concern with him. From there, the usage rate, the minutes are spread pretty evenly across the team. Johnson and Stewart return from their suspension, but again, no consistency with the minutes for the rest of Indiana. Iowa State taking on TCU, 2 games left here. This game is the worst on the slate outside of the Texas contest, a 127.5 total, TCU being the 3.5-point favorite. You do have some pretty tight rotations here with Iowa State. Brockington, Hunter, Kalsher, these are all guys that play nearly every minute for this team. But again, it's just the fact that the total is so low here that can we actually get to any of these guys? And my first instinct is probably not, outside of just maybe the minutes are a little bit more condensed with Tristan and Aruna missing time. He's questionable in this contest, so we'll watch there. But overall, if I'm not playing Brockington, it's probably Tyrese Hunter. They have the same usage rate. Only 1% separates them, but still not a good spot. For TCU, Mike Miles returned. That is good for them as a team, not good for DFS. It extends the rotation to another player. Mike Miles will play the most minutes when healthy. He has a 21% usage rate, but again, how healthy is he still coming off the injury? From there, maybe Eddie Lampkin is a play at 4,300. Just salary alone, he has a 30% rebound rate, but he's going to need extra shots to get there. Tough for me to play. Damian Baugh, he's kind of the same thing. High shot rate, but a little more expensive. I'd rather play Mike Miles in a vacuum. Last game is pretty decent for DFS. 129 total here. It is Butler taking on DePaul. And I say that just from a minute perspective. The total obviously leaves a lot to be desired. But both these teams have struggled on offense at times. Butler's gotten much, much better. In their last 5 games, all 3 of their losses are by 3 points or less. So here I think you could look to Bo Hodges, who's playing 30-plus minutes. 20% shot rate, 30% rebound rate, 15% assist rate. Bo Hodges, 6,300. He should be a 7K player. Still too cheap, even in this game environment. And with that, probably not getting to Chuck Harris or Bryce Golden. Maybe a Bryce Golden just for somebody cheaper. But Bo Hodges is the best player, I think, on this team overall. Bryce Enzi potentially a play too, but I'm just going to find the 100 to get to Bo Hodges if I'm playing Enzi. On DePaul, the status of Javon Freeman-Liberty and Javon Johnson still loom large. Not expecting them to play until they show otherwise. Otherwise, I mean, what are we really doing here? So for me, it's basically just Do we decide to play any of these guys and wait on the late news? In this kind of game environment, probably not. But if you are, David Jones, Brandon Johnson are the two guys I would look to most. They have the best rates. Jalen Terry has stepped up for Javon Johnson pretty well there too. He's 5,500, so he'll give you a cheaper option. But overall, the best rates come from David Jones, 24% shot rate, 32% rebound rate, 33% assist rate. Brandon Johnson slightly behind him, and then Jalen Terry, 19% shot rate, 13% rebound rate, 26% assist rate, last three. Those are all solid here. So again, not the best game environment with the 129 total, but Bo Hodges and then your Jalen Terrys, Brandon Johnsons, they give you some pretty good value in this low total game. So I actually don't mind it. But that's the slate. We also have 2 additional for FanDuel, but we won't talk about that here. You can check out the site if you would like to see it. We have full projection, slate write-ups, everything you need for college basketball to gear you up for the NCAA tournament. My name is Matt Gajewski, on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you again next time.